Welcome to Aquatics by Nature. Now that this 29-year-old no water change unfertilised aquarium has kind of recovered from its summer neglect and the sort of resulting algal bloom, as you can probably see, the tank is now somewhat growing a bit too well and is somewhat overgrown, to say the least. So I thought it would give me the ideal opportunity just to do a little bit of a pruning and tidying up session. So I thought it would be quite a nice thing to do, just to once again just sort of film what I do and just show you how easy and straightforward it is to actually maintain this tank, even though it has been left a little bit longer than I would normally choose to do. But it's really quite straightforward because the plants that I choose in this tank are quite straightforward and easy to maintain, which is a deliberate policy if you're used to following my little channel, as it were. But as you can see on the surface here, there's lots and lots of water lettuce which are currently cutting the light out. And unlike when the tank had these sort of algal problems, the roots are all nice and white and bright again now. They're not all sort of green and slimy, but there's obviously way too much of it. So the first job is really just to thin out some of the water lettuce, which is about as simple as it comes really. Just pull out as much as you fancy. I tend to try not to remove too much in one go, because you can find that you can shock tanks sometimes if you go from a tank that's got a lot of cover to one that's extremely open. Sometimes that will leave you open to algae and things, and especially considering this tank has only recently sort of recovered from my neglect period, as I say, earlier in the summer. So I don't want to go too mad with it, but it is cutting out too much light, and hopefully you can already see that's letting in quite a bit more light, just removing a few bits there along the way. But a lot of the rest of it is sort of general tidying up. If you look at the crinum on the left here, this crinkled onion, which is, I have to say, even though I say it myself, is absolutely stunning plant. It's come back absolutely beautifully since I made the changes to the tank in the previous video. So I'm really quite pleased with it. But as you can see, one or two of the older leaves, like this one in particular, are actually going yellow now, so they're not doing anything to the tank. So I'm just picking off a few snails because I don't want to get rid of those. And all I do really is just nip it off at the base. It's very straightforward. It's quite a thick and sturdy plant to do, actually. It's surprisingly almost like rubbery, really. Extremely tough. Kind of a bit like rubbery seaweed, actually. But actually you can see that leaf is kind of past its best, so I think it's time for that one to go at the same time. But, it's a very easy, low maintenance plant, and although it's quite a slow growing plant, I have to say, since I made the changes to the tank, it has really sort of accelerated, and you can see the thickness of the leaves again are really nice and sturdy now. It's really looking very happy. The main other plant really in the tank that needs a good going over is the ambulia here, this beautiful feathery plant. I've simply left it too long, and it's just got too thick now, and again is cutting the light and the flow a little bit. As you can see, I just let the tank sort of meander around it. It sort of runs around the tank, and you can see little runners right along the front here as well. But you can see once the stems get to the top like this, they don't really look very nice, and they cut the light out. So I never actually dig the plant up. If you follow my previous videos, you'll know that I don't really like disturbing the substrate if I can possibly help it. So part of that really is just any stems that are too long, I literally just nip them off at the base. Very simple, very quick and easy. Occasionally, if the odd stem comes up somewhere I don't want it, like these, then I will nip those off when they're younger. But generally speaking, I let them get big before I do that. These stems I will remove, but you can actually, if you want to plant them somewhere else, you can actually, literally all you do is you just take a piece off. I don't know if you can see this, but just nip a little piece off like that. And literally, if you just poke that in somewhere where you fancy, just poke it in like that, that will actually just root and grow there. Simple as that. It's not an ideal place for it, but might as well stay there just for fun. But I'll just remove some more of these. So just basically just getting rid of the taller ones. I'm not terribly fussy as to where they come up. It's just I like to just sort of roll with where things want to grow naturally. I don't like to force things really. It's what I call natural aquascaping. Just let plants grow where they like within reason, and then just thin them out when they need a little bit of a hand. But yeah, definitely left these a little bit too long. But it means that the tank sort of randomly changes, you know, whereas it would be extremely dense at the back a minute ago is now actually going to be quite empty at the back, and the taller plants will be more towards the middle of the tank. Actually, I probably won't do too much more. I might just take that one off. Like I say, I don't like to change too much in any one go, because although the tank's been left a little bit too long, if you put out too much plant in one go, as I say, it can sort of shock the tank the sort of reverse way round, as it were. So just to really just keep it tidy and keep the tank open enough so that you get the flow, so it circulates around quite nicely. And you can see again on the Amazon sword here, there's one or two tatty leaves, so I will just take off a few of those. And just like the crinum at the other end, literally just nip them off. Nothing more complicated, but the sword again is actually growing really nicely at the moment. There's actually very few tatty leaves on it. When I consider that only a month or two ago it was actually growing lots of green fur all over it and not looking very happy at all. It's really quite a happy plant now, quite pleased with it. There's still a few little bits of cryptocoryne melt, little bits doing that, but they're gradually disappearing and just sort of diminishing. And you can see the cryptocorynes are sort of changing colour now. There's much more of that nice bronzy growth, much healthier growth. These sort of older green leaves, which are not so healthy from previously, are gradually disappearing. And in fact, I am actually just taking some of them off. You can see there's a few more here that are just a little bit tatty, but I just tidy them up sort of as and when I feel I need to. I mean, I'm not sure whether you can see it that easily, but there's lots and lots of hydrocotyl growing along the back at the top of the tank. That little green leaf plant, which is kind of growing a little bit more than I'd like it to. So I am actually just going to get a pair of scissors and just cut that back for a little bit. But most of the growth is actually above the water, so you probably can't see it from where I've got the camera at the moment. But I'm just going to thin it back a little bit, because although the fish do chew it, it does sort of gradually try and sneak out a little bit into the tank. I hope I'm not obscuring the camera with doing this. I'm leaning over at a bit of an odd angle, but trying to do two things at once, as it were. But I'll just remove a little bit of that. But because it runs on long, thin stems, it's easiest really just to give it a clip with a pair of scissors. Actually, there's some more water lettuce here as well that I couldn't see. Just gently going to remove a little bit, but yeah, I'm not really going to do a great deal more than that. It's just like I say, a little bit of a tidy up and just let a little bit more light in, and that will just keep it going for another week or two. And then some of these tall ambulia stems in probably less than a week will actually be right at the top and obscuring the light again. So I probably will take those off relatively quickly at the end of the day. And there'll probably be a few of these tiger lotus leaves that will get a little bit too much. But again, at the moment, there's not that many of them. So I think I'll probably just sort of leave it at that really. But really just to show that to tidy a tank up quickly like that really doesn't take very long. It's just a little bit of regular maintenance, sort of when you get the time, and then the rest of the time you can just sort of sit back and enjoy your tank really. So the whole idea really of having a tank is to have something you can sit back and watch. And as you can see, the fish are already getting used to having a little bit more space to swim around. And although I've stirred the tank up slightly, it's not too bad. It will soon clear from that, as it were. So anyway, if you'd like to know more about how I maintain this tank so naturally, without water changes or fertilisers, I'd be eternally grateful if you subscribe and give me a like. You can also check out my playlists, but most importantly, enjoy your aquarium. Don't be a slave to it. Thanks for watching.